Hello, welcome to the channel today, and I'm gonna keep reading the book of Mice and Men, by John Steinbeck. Alright, last time I left at the page 18, but I'm gonna start reading from 19 because it's a new chapter, and I'm probably gonna read for like 5 pages. So that's it, let's go. The bank house was a long, rectangular building. Inside, the walls were whitewashed and the floor unpainted. In 3 walls there were small square windows, and in the fourth a solid door with a wooden latch. Against the walls were 8 bunks. 5 of them made up with blankets, and the other 3 showing their burlap taking over each bunk. Over each bunk there was nailed an apple box with the opening forward, so that it made 2 shelves for the personal belongings of the occupants of the bunk. Of these shelves were loaded with little articles, soap and talcum powder, razors, and those Western magazines. Ranch men love to read at the school fat and secretly believe. And there were medicines on the shelves, and little veils, combs, and from nails on the box side, a few neckties. Near one wall there was a black cast iron stove, its stovepipe going straight up through the ceiling. In the middle of the room stood a big square table littered with playing cards, and around it were grouped boxes for a player to sit on. And about 10 o'clock in the morning, the sun threw a bright dust-laden bar through one of the side windows, and in and out of the beam flies shot like rushing stars. The wooden latch raised, the door opened, and a tall, stooped-shouldered old man came in. He was dressed in blue jeans, and he carried a big push broom in his left hand. Behind him came George, and behind George, Lenny. "The boss was expecting you last night," the old man said. "He was sore as hell when you wasn't here to go out this morning." He pointed with the right arm, and out of the sleeve came a round steak-like wrist, but no hand. "You can have them 2 beds there," he said, indicating 2 bunks near the stove. George stepped over and threw his blankets down on the burlap sack of straw that was a mattress. He looked into his box shelf and then picked a small yellow can from it. "Say, what the hell's this?" "I don't know," said the old man. "Says positively kills lice, roaches, and other sorges." "What the hell kind of bed you giving us, anyways? We don't want no pants rabbits." The old swamper shifted his broom and held it between his elbow and his side while he held out his hand for the can. He studied the label carefully. "Tell you what," he said finally, "last guy that had this bed was blacksmith. Hell of a nice fella, and as clean a guy as you want to meet. Used to wash his hands even after he ate. Then how come he got graybacks?" George was working up a slow anger. Lenny put his bindle on the on the neighboring bunk and sat down. He watched George with open mouth. "Tell you what," said the old swamper. "This here blacksmith named Whitty, was kind of guy that would put that stuff around even if there wasn't no bugs, just to make sure. See? Tell you what he used to do. At meals, he'd peel his boiled potatoes and he'd take out every little spot, no matter what kind, before he'd eat it. And if there was a red splotch on an egg, he'd scrap it off. Finally, quit about the food. That's the kind of guy he was. Clean, used to dress up Sundays, even when he wasn't going no place. Put on a necktie even, and then sat in the bunkhouse. "I ain't so sure," said George skeptically. What do you say he quit for?" The old man put the little can in his pocket, and he rubbed his bristly white whiskers with his knuckles. "Why he just quit? The way a guy will. Says it was the food. Just wanted to move. Didn't give no other reason but the food. Just says give me my time." One night, the way any guy would, George lifted his tick and looked underneath it. He leaned over and inspected the snacking closely. Immediately, then he got up and did the same with his bed. Finally, George seemed satisfied. He unrolled his spindle and put things on the shelf. His razor and bar of soap, his comb and bottle of pills, his liniment and leather wristband. Then he made his bed up neatly with the blankets. The old man said, "I guess the boss will be out here in a minute. He was sure burned when you wasn't here this morning. Come right in when we was eating breakfast and says, where the hell's them new men? Where the hell's them new men?" Sorry, my fault. And he give the stable buck hell too. George patted wrinkle out of his bed and sat down. "Give the stable buck hell?" He asked. "Sure. Ya see the stable buck's a nigger." "Nigger, huh?" "Yeah, nice fella too. Got a crooked back where a horse kicked him. The boss gives him hell when he's mad, but the stable buck don't give a damn about that. He reads a lot. Got books in his room." What kind of a guy is the boss?" George asked. "Well, he's a pretty nice fella. Gets pretty mad sometimes, but he's pretty nice. Tell you what, know what he done Christmas? Brown a gallon of whiskey right in here and says, 'Drink here, boys. Christmas comes by once a year.' The hell he did. Whole gallon. Yes, sir, Jesus. Yes, sir, Jesus. We have fun. They let the nigger come in that night. Little Skinner named Smitty look after the nigger. Done pretty good too. The guys wouldn't let him use his feet, so the N-word got him. If he could used his feet, Smitey says he would have killed the N-word. The guy said one on account of N-words got crooked back. Smitey can't use his feet. He paused in relish of the memory. After that, the guys went into Soledad and raised hell. I didn't go in there. I ain't got the poop nowhere, no more. Lenny was just finishing making his bed. The wooden latch raised again, and the door opened. A little stocky man stood in the open doorway. He wore blue jean trousers, a flannel shirt, a black unbuttoned vest, and a black coat. His thumbs were stuck in his belt. On each side of a square steel buckle. On his head was a soiled brown Stetson hat, and he wore high-heeled boots and spurs to prove he was not a laboring man. The old swamper looked quickly at him, and then shuffled to the door, rubbing his whiskers with his nickels as he went. "Them guys just come," he said, and shuffled past the boss and out the door. The boss stepped into the room with the short, quick steps of a fat-legged man. I rode Murray and Reddy. I wanted 2 men this morning. You got your work slips. George reached into his pocket and produced the slips and handed them to the boss. I wasn't Murray. It wasn't Murray and Reddy's fault. Says right here on a slip that you was to be here for work this morning. George looked down at his feet, but bus driver gave us a boom steer. He said we had a walk 10 miles. Says we was here when we wasn't. We couldn't get no rides in the morning. God damn, bro. I've read 4 pages. Okay. The boss squinted his eyes. Well, I had to send out the grain teams for 2 buckers. Won't do any good to go out now till after dinner. He pulled his time book out of his pocket and opened it where a pencil was stuck between the leaves. George scowled meaningfully at Lenny, and Lenny nodded to show that he understood. The boss licked his pencil. "What's your name?" "George Milton." "And what's yours?" George said. "His name is Lenny Small." The names were entered in the book. Let's see. This is the 20th, noon the 20th. He closed the book. "Where you boys been working?" "Up round weed," said George. "You too?" To Lenny. "Yeah, him too," said George. The boss pointed a playful finger at Lenny. "He ain't much a talker, is he?" "No, he ain't, but he's sure the hell of a good worker. Strong as a bull." Lenny smiled to himself. "Strong as a bull," he repeated. George scowled at him, and Lenny dropped his head in shame as having forgotten. The boss said suddenly, "Listen, Small." Lenny raised his head. "What can you do?" In a panic, Lenny looked at George for help. "He can do anything you tell him," said George. "He's a good skinner. He can wrestle grain bags, drive a cultivator. He can do anything. Just give me a try." The boss turned on George. "Then why don't you let him answer? What you trying to put over?" George broke in loudly. "Oh, I ain't saying he's right. He ain't, but I say he's a goddamn good worker. He can He can put up a 400-pound bail. The boss deliberately put the little book in his pocket. He looked his thumbs in his belt and squinted, one eye nearly closed. Say, what you selling? Huh? I said, what stake you got in this guy? You taking his pay away from him? No, of course I ain't. Why you think I'm selling him out? Well, I never seen one guy take too much trouble for another guy. I just like to know what your interest is, George said. He's my cousin. I told his old lady I'd take care of him. He got kicked in the head by a horse when he was a kid. He's alright, just ain't bright. But he can't do anything you tell him. The boss turned halfway. Well, God knows he don't need any brains to buck barley bags. But don't you try to put nothing over, Melton. I got my eye on you. Why do you quit in weed? Job was done, said George promptly. What kind of job? We was digging a cesspool. All right, but don't try to put nothing over, 'cause you can't get away with nothing. I seen wise guys before. Go on out with the grain teams after dinner. They are picking up barley at the threshing machine. Go out with Slim's team. Slim? Yeah, big tall Skinner. You see him at dinner. He turned abruptly and went to the door. But before he went out, he turned and looked for a long moment at the two men. When the sound of the footsteps that had died away, George turned on Lenny. So you wasn't gonna say a word. So you wasn't gonna say a word. You was gonna leave your big flapper shut and leave me do the talking. Damn near lost his job. Alright, that's it for today. And if you like the video, please subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. And I'll continue reading from page 25 next time. Alright, so that's for today. If you like the video, please subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye. Yo.